It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. We're in our third segment of 4 this morning. If you're joining us just now, appreciate your attendance. Thanks very much. If you're streaming live on our website, I'm glad to have you on board. If you are capturing us on Patriot FB and our streaming program there, we're glad to have you. If you're catching us live or catching us on Rooster Radio, Big Country 99.3, just for the record, this is pre-recorded for you folks, so our phone lines aren't open for you to call, but, well, we'll try to resolve that at some point in the future and be able to figure out a way to do live broadcasting for you. But, of course, it's at midnight to 2, and I'm in bed at that time because I'm getting up in 2 hours to do the program for you in the morning. So, I want to talk a little bit about this administrative agency thing, because the problem is that we are inundated with tidal waves of administrative agency law. And the Constitution is expressly and explicitly clear about the fact that no law can be passed that does not come from Congress itself. Now, the traitors in Congress have, for all intents and purposes, given themselves the opportunity to pass that particular duty on to administrative agencies. But we have never given Congress the authority to pass their limited power of attorney authorization on and to subdelegate it to unelected, unaccountable, nameless, faceless, self-serving maggots in 1,000 agencies. That's harsh. Good. I mean it to be. There is not an administrative agency in the nation, with the exception of 2, that has any constitutional authority or legality for its existence. There is no constitutional basis for the existence of any of the alphabet soup agencies. The only 2 that have authority to exist are Border Patrol and Commerce. That's it. The FAA, the FCC, the ATF, the CIA, the NSA, you can just go on and on and on and on and on. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the FEC, the FDA, the FTC, none of them, the SEC, none of them have constitutional authority to exist. I'm not saying that they don't have a job function that we can find valuable. I'm saying that they have zero constitutional basis for existence and therefore cannot pass rules and regulations that parade about as law. Only Congress can do that. But Congress has subdelegated their implied authority onto a group of maggots. And in case you didn't know it, the millions of teeming maggots who work for the administrative agencies, they don't take an oath to uphold and defend and protect the Constitution of the United States of America as the law of the land. kind of interesting, because if they were to do that, it would be a declaration of the fact that they have violated the same law that they're swearing to uphold. You know, when you look back at the Declaration of Independence, one of the things that always stood out to me was the statement when they were proclaiming against King George that he has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. I cannot think of a more appropriate example of that than the metastasized cancer of administrative agencies. The problem that we have is that they pass literally untold numbers of, they call them rules and they call them regulations. But you can call them whatever they want. They parade as law and act as law, and they walk like a duck and they have webbed feet like a duck. They quack, they have a beak, they have feathers, their tail wiggles, and they lay eggs. And that makes them a duck. I don't care what you call them, but a rule and a regulation that are published in the Federal Register are law. When you run afoul, pun intended, of those particular laws, then you go before an administrative law judge. And this is interesting because you are guaranteed a right to a trial by jury by the Constitution. You're not granted it by the Constitution, you're guaranteed it by the Constitution. Yet when you run afoul of administrative agency law, you don't go before a judge and a jury of your peers, you go before an administrative law judge. And an administrative law judge, one, works for the agency which you're in contention with. So right off the bat, you've got a major conflict of interest. How can a judge be objective when he works for the agency which he's going to have to rule against? Secondarily, you don't have an opportunity in many cases to even appeal his or her ruling. Moreover, when you can appeal that, the cost is so exorbitant that it's basically, this is where we start to rule now by the concept that we can beat you to death via money attrition. You lose by attrition because you don't have the resources to go out there and try to appeal this up above the line and go to federal court and so forth and so on. You have state agencies, by the way, that operate the same way. And the minions and the maggots within state agencies are no different than those in federal. They also have no legal justification for existence. So I don't want to seem biased here. I want to let you know that I hate maggots of all shapes, sizes, and colors. And you should too. Because they are the undoing of our nation. See, these rules and these regulations, when they are passed, they cost us not just our freedom and our liberty, not just our dignity, not just our ability to live and prosper, but they cost us something even far greater than that. They're costing us our entire, or the principle of our entire nation. See, we've lost the idea that we are self-governing. We don't believe in self-governance anymore. Now we believe in being told what to do by a group of maggots. Maggots. Teeming, squirming, writhing, wriggling maggots. Millions of them. And they tell you what to eat. They tell you what you can do with your property. They tell you where you can work and how you can work and under what circumstances you can work. And they limit your opportunities and they restrict your ability to function. You run afoul of them 3 or 4 times a day before you've even finished your breakfast. Some of them are so onerous that, for all intents and purposes, they're destroying our economy. I mean, it's estimated at this point that it costs our economy $1 trillion a year just to be in cooperation and in compliance. Well, the whole global domestic product is only 16 trillion, folks. That means that we're spending 1 trillion, or 1/16 of our economy, playing around trying to meet the demands of maggots. You know what happens when maggots grow old? They turn into flies, and they carry disease. And in this case, we've got administrative agencies that have metastasized like a cancer. And they started out as this tiny little nodule that was a few molecules in size. Just a couple of random cells that went awry. But they grow and grow and grow. And then soon they break off and they attach themselves to another organ. And they corrupt that organ. And before you know it, it's in your bones. And it's in your spine. And it's attached itself to your liver and your kidneys and your heart and your mind. And now, the body is almost dead from the succubus host. You understand? These administrative agencies are drawing the very life away of our nation. The truth is, they have their own rules and regulations. The truth is that they have their, and by the way, their rules and regulations prohibit you from taking action against them. I mean, they've got immunity and impunity from prosecution for their crimes. And mark my words, crimes they are. But there's nothing that you can do about them. The truth is that they operate independent of the president. They operate independent of Congress. They operate independent of the judiciary. If you disagree with their rulings, you have to expend an enormous amount of money, resources, time. And the truth of the matter is, you very, very rarely win. In 2013, these agencies added an estimated 157.9 million hours of paperwork just for compliance. Add that to the 80,224 pages of new regulations that were added in the Federal Register, and you see the scope of the problem. They're building and developing every day. They are adding more molecules to their own cancerous lump. The cumulative number of hours that is spent on regulatory paperwork, this is just to meet the demands of the the teeming maggots was 10.38 billion hours. I mean, just look at what a succubus that is. You know what a succubus is? It's an entity that attaches itself to a host, and it draws the very life from that host till it destroys it. The estimate in order to meet these requirements is that it takes about 78,000 people working full-time, doing nothing, full-time jobs, completing paperwork. I mean, come on, folks. And they're instituting things which are destroying us. All of these regulations about climate change, which, you know, the president would have you believe that this is settled, that this is science, that it's empirical. Nothing could be further from the truth. And yet, the EPA is out there acting as if this is settled science, as if this is factual. And they're making changes that are affecting you and affecting the industry that you work for and affecting the industries that affect us all and affect the number of jobs that are available to Americans. They're restricting the number of jobs that are available to Americans because we're all so busy running around trying to meet the requirements of some maggot that we're not focused on what we ought to be doing. Producing our core competency, whatever that may be. Whether that's manufacturing shoe leather or building a car or producing a product. Meanwhile, they're shutting down the coal plants left and right, and they're instituting brand new rules that will make coal and energy production impossible in the United States. The new coal scrubbing requirements that the EPA is instituting, by their own admission, will force electricity prices to jump 80%. Oh, guess what? That's only at the wholesale level. So what do you think your price is going to do? Now, listen, I'm all for clean environment. But to sit here and try and tell me that you're going to take all the coal plants that produce electricity in the United States, which is the vast majority of how we generate electricity, and without a solution in place to replace it with something more cost-effective or less damaging to the environment, you're going to just remove it, is suicidal. But the agencies are hard at work. And they're working fast and furiously, no pun intended, to destroy this country from the inside out. Not because they perceive it as destroying this country from the inside out. They are so wrapped up in their own extremist mentality that this shutting down this one plant will save the planet. While meanwhile, the three largest carbon-producing nations, which are not the United States, are generating and producing these same coal plants 5 times at the rate for every one we shut down. So what exactly is the point? See, the problem, if you're going to sit here and say that we've got to clean the planet, that's fine. But if what you're saying is that we're going to reduce our consumption while necessarily forcing and skyrocketing our own electricity prices and shorting ourselves out of the one thing that basically makes our entire planet function and operate, then you're going to sit there and tell me that you're not going to make, or that other countries are not going to cooperate. This is a unilateral action which serves no purpose. None whatsoever. But they don't care. They don't care because administrative agencies do only one thing. They grow, and as a result of their growth, they destroy. Just like a cancer. And the only way to eliminate them is to cut them out. Unfortunately, they're so deeply embedded at this point that to remove them may be very well the equivalent of killing the patient. Our body, our national body, is full of maggots. Millions upon millions of maggots. Consider this. 20% of the entire national workforce is employed by government. The vast majority of that are maggots. They don't produce anything. They don't function at all in any way, shape, or form other than to grow their own. That's all they do. Government doesn't produce anything. It doesn't offer any benefits to the community at large. They take. They don't enhance. So 20% of the nation's workforce are maggots. Welcome to the world of Lord of the Flies. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this article that I found this morning, which I'm really very, very interesting. It'll be our final episode or final segment for the morning. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Please make sure that you follow our sponsors and you patronize them in an effort to keep this program on the air and thank them for their patriotic duty of sponsoring this program. You can find Battery Station at batterystation.com. You can also call them at 417-257-7799. Our friends at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard, make sure that you swing by there. And today is their reduced lunch day, and tonight is family night. Make sure that you take advantage of that. The law offices of Jason Henry in West Plains. He handles state and federal criminal and civil cases. 417-256-4100. Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop on the square in West Plains, where they've got pretty much everything for the smoker. You can reach them at 417-257-1776. Great phone number for a place named Patriot Cigar and Tobacco. Wits End Classic Barbershop, where you can swing in there and get yourself a great haircut and an old straight razor hot lather shave. Make sure that you take advantage of that. And our friends over at Express Mini Marts 1 and 2 in 14 and 63 at the junction there, and also across the street from the city pool in West Plains on People's Park. If you have an opportunity to, or you'd like to advertise with us, by all means, please feel free to do that. You can contact me at mike@americasvoicenow.org, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you about either something local or a local sponsorship on one of our terrestrial radio programs or here across the board. In addition to that, if you're interested in having a website built for your business, or you'd like some additional work done on the internet regarding marketing and services, then by all means jump over to airbridgeweb.com. That's airbridgeweb.com, or you can call 417-204-4064. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to grab our last segment of the morning, and that is America's Unraveling. America, it's time to prepare yourself. We'll be right back.